Welcome to the Detroit News High School Football Preview. I'm Rod Beard, and I'm joined by Tom Markowski. And Tom, we're in Week 6 already, but it seems like it's Week 10 because our picks are just so horrible this year. We're teetering around 500.
We just need to study a little bit more.
I think going to the games is enough studying for both of us. We got 4 good games for you this week, starting out in the OAA White with Oxford and Southfield, 2 3-2 teams. Southfield has 2 losses in the league already, and Oxford is trying to stay in position to be able to win the White.
Well, they have one loss. They're trying to stay on the heels of Oak Park, which is really the surprise team in the White Division. But it seems like every game in the White Division this year, except for maybe the North Farmingtons and the Southfield Lathrops, have all been close, decided in the last few minutes. And it wouldn't surprise me to see this one settled the same way. I just like Southfield's defense. They've really held in there all season long. Offense has struggled, but playing at home, I think they find enough offense to get past Oxford. But Oxford's a funny team in a sense that they just play basic football. There's nothing flashy about them. They just kind of sit and wait for you to make mistakes. If that happens, they're going to win the game.
Well, Southfield got the big win over Harrison last week, and I think this is identity time. This is really who they find out where they find out who they are. If they can get this win over Oxford, they may not be able to win the White, but they'll have a lot of momentum going into the last 2 weeks of the division play and then getting into the state playoffs of winning at least a couple of good games and knowing that they can try to make some hay once they get there.
I think Southfield, if they win this game, they're going to get in the state playoffs, and who knows? That could be a dangerous scenario depending on who they get matched up with.
Next game is Northville and South Lyon East, 2 3-2 teams, and really 2 teams that we don't talk about a lot because they typically don't do well. Northville kind of dominated the Kensington Lake Central last year, but South Lyon East is maybe one of the surprise teams in the state.
Well, they thought they were going to be good this year, South Lyon East. They new program. They thought that everything was going to come together this year, 40 on varsity. Cam Thomas is probably the best quarterback in Oakland County. He's having a fine year. They're tied for first in the Central, which is just, baffling. There's a 4-way tie for first. Yeah. They upset Salem last week. A lot of people thought that Northville's win over Livonia Stevenson was an upset. That's one of the few I had right last week. But that being said, I think Northville, with the young team they have, they're going to get better as the season goes on. I really like the way their kids are playing, the young ones on that team, and I think they're going to make a run at the division title and they win this one.
Well, East has played a lot of close games this year already. A few 3-point games against Novi last week against Salem, as you said, and against Waterford Kettering. So that might be a team that's growing up and is primed for the upset here. If they're able to pull this off, that could put them in position for the state playoffs. And they've never won more than 3 games in a season, much less sniff the state playoffs.
Right, that would be remarkable for them to even get in the state playoffs, let alone what they do after.
Yep. Next game is Ecorse and River Rouge, another 2 teams that we don't talk about a lot. But in that Michigan Metro Conference, they're the 2 best teams. And at 4-1, Ecorse really needs this game to stay in that race, and Rouge needs this game to really put a capper on the good season that they've gotten so far.
Well, last year, Ecorse had their number, winning twice, including in the playoffs, where they really thrashed them. I believe it was 33-8. Rouge was just kind of building upon last year. That's a program, obviously a basketball program, but they're trying to change the culture in Rouge, and it's hard to do because of the basketball meaning so much down there. But 5-0 start. They've only given up, 6 points was it last week? They had 4 shutouts to start the season. I think Rouge is the cream of the crop in this league, and I think they win this one rather easily.
Yeah, the Shoddy defense giving up the touchdown last week, and they're outscoring their opponents 237-6 in those 5 games already. So we'll see if the defense can be firm again this week against a better team in Ecorse. Final game, another one of the Catholic League games that we've talked about every week. We're going to get a good showdown in the Central Division, but this is Orchard Lake St. Mary's and Brother Rice, 2 4-1 teams, and St. Mary's certainly coming off that big win over Cass Tech last week at home.
It definitely opened up some eyes. I didn't think they'd win that game, and I thought Cass their speed and their strength would get past St. Mary's. But it just kind of shows you what kind of team St. Mary's is and how well coached they are. They ran their schemes well last week. They gained 225 or 230 yards rushing against a really good Cass defense. And that's the way Brother Rice is playing now, too. They want to run the ball, and they threw 4 or 5 passes last week. They're just trying to grind it out and rely on their defense. It wouldn't surprise me to see a 10-7, 14-10 game here. And I got to go with the Warriors since they're not playing at St. Mary's, which they've never won there.
Yeah, that's the big key. But I like St. Mary's in this game because they won last year, and they really ran through the Central Division last year as well. And I think they're going to carry a little bit of that momentum from the Cass win into this game. And since that opening loss to Muskegon, they've really bounced back nicely. I think this is going to be a key win for them in the division. division as well. So I like St. Mary's, and we'll see. I mean, we differ on the two picks, but one of us is going to get it right is a fortunate piece of that. Stick with all of our coverage this weekend on Friday and Saturday at detnews.com/high schools. All of our videos and our further coverage from Tom. For Tom Markowski, I'm Rod Beard. We'll see you next week.